Your story could be the key that unlocks someone else's prison. Don't be afraid to share it. These words by Toby Mac have touched me to the core. For you see, I am living those words. For the past 2 years, I have done just that. And today, I get to share with you my story. My story has 3 parts. The first part is of darkness. The second is a message. And the third is the light that finally shone and still shines today. My story begins with the birth of my second son, Lincoln. I was happy. I had 2 little boys, a loving husband, a beautiful home, a caring family, and it was great. And then Lincoln turned 3 months old, and feelings started to come. Feelings that I had had once before. These feelings that I was feeling had come with my first son, Luke, but I blamed it on being homesick. I was 3 hours away from Moose Jaw, from my home, and so I blamed it on everything else but myself. But now, with Lincoln, I had those same feelings, but I couldn't blame it on being homesick. I would have moments of rage. I would go from 1 to 10 in a matter of seconds. My hormones, they raged. I couldn't control myself. My husband wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. I can remember after one episode, I was standing in the shower, crying, tears streaming down my face, over my body. I was cold, and I could feel the water pelting down on my skin, and that's when I knew I needed to make a change. And that next week, I went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with postpartum depression, which I still live with today. I started taking medication, and things got better. I was happy, my husband was happy, everything was much better. But then I had to leave the comfort of my home, and I had to go back to work after my maternity leave, back to a new teaching position, a new grade, a split grade, grades I hadn't taught before, a new principal. Everything was new, and I don't deal well with change. I never have. And on top of all of that, I was a first-time mom to 2 boys. Those first 2 months in that classroom, they were very hard on me. You see, the kids that I was teaching, they needed love, and they would go about any way to get that love. So much so that I was taking it home with me. And I was worrying about them. Had they had enough to eat? Were they warm? I would lay awake in bed at night, worrying about them. They were in my thoughts at all time. And it wasn't fair to my own family, but I didn't know how to make it stop. As I would drive closer to the school in the morning, I would become physically ill the closer I got. My anxiety started to tear around my neck, and I couldn't breathe. But I had to work, so I would go. And then on November 3rd, 2 years ago, after Halloween, The kids came to school and they had candy hangovers, and the teachers were tired, and I made it. I did it all the way through to lunch. I got in the staff room, I got in the staff washroom, I closed the door, and that's where I cried. And I asked myself, how am I going to get through this? I have 8 more months. I don't know what I'm going to do. But me, being who I am, I made it back to the classroom. After lunch, the kids came in. It was silent reading, a good time for me, because I could sit in my desk at my chair, in my chair at my desk, and I sat there, and the kids came in and they picked up their books. I'd have to give them some reminders. It wasn't working though. So, at the time, I had been seeing a counselor. I put my hands on my desk, and I remembered just to feel the hardness, the coldness of a desk. Concentrate on that. Forget about what's happening right now. Don't be in your head. And I breathed. But it didn't work. So I kept breathing and breathing, and I couldn't control them. Sit down! I scared them. They all got to their desks and sat down. I raced out of my classroom, made it to the safety of the staff room. And in my head, I was thinking, okay, the doctor and the counselor, just breathe. That's what they say. Just breathe. 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 And I was breathing so hard that acid released through my head and went all the way to my toes. My hands started to close in around me, and I couldn't feel them. I looked down. They were mangled. Was I having a stroke? Another teacher walked into the staff room. She put her hand on my back, and I concentrated on her hand. And I breathed. Another teacher came, and she took my hands, and she started to knead them like bread. And she took them, and slowly they started to open. And the moment passed, and I was able to breathe again. I never did make it back to my classroom that day. I wasn't allowed to drive my car home. I was driven home. I managed to remember to bring my keys, so I got into the house. The house was cold and damp. The sofa was leather, cool leather. I didn't know what to do. And that's when I picked up the phone and I called someone. I called my mother-in-law, Michelle, a very wise woman, and I told her what happened. And she said words that I'll never forget. At the time, I thought she was a little bit crazy, but they changed my life. She said to me, "Laura, God has chosen you to go on your journey. You're not happy. You get to change. You get to take this moment and make it yours. You get to become whatever you want." And that's exactly what I did. I listened to her, And I let those words ring in my ears, and they still do. And I started to breathe. I took time for myself. 3 whole weeks I took for just me, and I became selfish. I would go for walks in Crescent Park and look up at the trees and take pictures and watch the leaves fall. I was seeing life all around me. I would go to the library and take out books and read them. I had time to read. And I would cook. I could cook. And I meditated. I had to do it in my closet, but I meditated. And I took all this time for me. And that's when I picked up a paintbrush. Now, during these 3 weeks, I had been studying different artists because it's something that I've always been captivated by. There was an artist, or is an artist, by the name of Buzz Seiler in Portland, and his work captivated me so much that after viewing his work, I decided in that moment that I needed to try that out. And well, being a creative person, I do have a good supply of materials that I don't use. So I had been toting around a large canvas. I ran downstairs and I pulled it out. And I took it and I set it on my kitchen table. I pushed away the chairs. And I looked at that canvas. You're mine. I needed paint. But I didn't have any paint, except for the paint that you paint your walls with. So I ran around the house and I gathered it up. I had a beautiful teal color and brilliant gold, a yellow, so good. And I had cloud white, a beautiful, beautiful white. I had the colors that I needed. I took my paintbrush and a big bowl of water and a screwdriver. I pried open the can. First, I took a splash of water and I washed the canvas down. Then I took the white paint and I washed the canvas with white paint. The water was spilling over the side. I need black. I need black paint. And I don't have any. Oh, except I was painting the metal light posts. That will work. I ran to the garage and picked up a can of oil paint, a can of black paint. I pried it open with the screwdriver. I didn't have any small paintbrushes, so I used the screwdriver. I dipped it in. And just like that, I touched the canvas. And magic happened. It was amazing. In reality, it was just a reaction between the two paints. But to me, it was magic. If you would have been in that kitchen, you would have heard my heart pounding. Adrenaline poured through my body. A figure started to form. I added the teal paint. It was amazing. The paints mixing and swirling, paint spilling down the sides of a table. I wasn't worried about the mess that I would have to clean up because I was so in the moment. This feeling that was washing over me, I truly believe that not everyone gets to have that feeling, but I did. It was like a dormant energy inside of me that came out when that paint touched the latex paint and started to dance. Lucy, in the yellow dress, started to form. At first she had a face, but as I listened to the paint, I was told no faces. Because you see, I wasn't painting the picture. I was just listening to the paint. It was telling me what to do. I was the guide of the paint. It was the most amazing experience. And Lucy, she sat there on my kitchen counter for 2 full days. She had to dry, and my husband and my kids, they would walk by Lucy and they would honor her because she changed their mom. She made their mom strong. And starting with Lucy, she was strong and brave and courageous, all the things that I needed. And it took me a while to realize that. But as I started to paint, more and more girls came out. They started to transform, and they started to transform me. They became carefree, free-spirited, loving, graceful beings. They became my daughters. I wondered why I didn't have girls. Well, this is why I have girls. All of these are my daughters, and they healed me, starting with Lucy. Each girl that I painted made me stronger, and I became happier. And because of them, I'm able to share my story. I'm able to stand up here in front of you and share these amazing creatures that have come out. And they too help people. I get messages from people telling me all the time how my paintings have helped them. And it is the most amazing thing to know that I am helping another human being, because I have been there and I have felt it. And I know that you can get through it. In closing, I'm going to share with you who these women are. When I get asked, this is what I say. She is me. She is you. She is your sister, your friend, your mother, your grandmother, your niece. She could be who and whatever you need her to be. She is brave, but her grace has the ability to calm your soul. She lives a simple life and calls nature home. Listen, for she whispers softly. Be still. Breathe. Be present. Collect beautiful moments. And above all, be brave.